Hello, my name is Sam Donnelly, and this is my post-production video evaluation for MED318. So I decided to make a music video for Golden Light, the song released by STR FKR in 2013. The music in the song reminded me a lot of old school plug-and-play games that I used to play as a kid. So my main goal for this music video was to take the tropes of games that would mostly fit in with games of that era and implement them into a live action setting on this unsuspecting main character. So one of the games that from this era that I fondly remember playing was the 2004 The Batman game. It was developed by Jack Pacific. The song Golden Light reminded me a lot of the music in that game, so the game set a foundation to the tone that I wanted to achieve in this music video, which I tried to implement a lot of references to the game, including drone shots that were clearly shot before 2020. They swoop around the city at night, and I use those to break up the acts in the video during the bridge sections of the song. They sort of act like loading screens between the levels, which is like a classic mechanic that has been used in video games for decades now. So other elements that you may have noticed that I tried to implement were the fixed camera angles. I kind of used it as a reference to the old school Resident Evil games. That franchise basically created the genre of survival horror, and the situation that the main character in this music video finds himself in could, definitely fit into that category loosely. There's also a point where the camera angle is flat and you're just facing, from the side. That harkens back to side-scroller beat-em-ups. A bit obscure, I know, but there's also a lot more obvious ones, like the exclamation mark that forms above the character's head, which I had to track frame by frame on the shot. That's a reference to Metal Gear Solid. Other more general mechanics that I put in there were like the button prompt, the achievement unlocked, the life bar. They're all fairly standard for games these days, but there's also like a hybridization of two different eras of games that kind of make their way into this video. So for the editing process, the key light tool was basically my best friend in implementing all the weird, wacky, out there elements into this live action setting. Most of the characters that I used originated from games in the 90s and early 2000s. That was the era I was trying to stick in with. Now, granted, some of the character models that I used are from, more recent entries of the franchises that maybe late 2010s and stuff like that, but their origins were from the 90s and early 2000s, and it does also kind of lend itself to the era hybridization that I was trying to go for, and it also adds to the the more chaotic nature of the piece, especially towards the ending. I used a lot of masking, which was crucial in some scenes where the characters need to have some level of interaction with the live action recordings, when the door closes, or if there was a character standing in front of them and you need to move past them, so stuff like that. I think for the most part I achieved in what I set out to do. The tone of the video matches the tone of the song, and it also matches the tone of my other inspirations that I was setting out to implement. There's a clear progression of plot through the piece. I think it's pretty easy to follow. And the post-production skills that I chose to use implemented as well as I feel like I could have done for somebody of my skill. However, the issues that became apparent when I started editing were some of the shots weren't as steady as I would have liked, and it did kind of affect the overall impact of some of the shots, especially when you can see towards the end, like characters that are moving, but the ground isn't like completely even. So I had to track as best as I could, but if if you're looking for that kind of stuff, it is fairly noticeable. Granted, you can make the excuse of, oh, you know, they're video game characters, they you can get away with that stuff, but in all honesty, I do hold my hand up. It's not it wasn't done as well as it possibly could have, and that's my bad. I tried to get as many 2D characters in as possible to kind of accommodate this. But in retrospect, now that I've actually finished the piece, it probably would have been better if I had just, you know, committed to that and just have them completely all 2D, you know, sprite-like characters like Donkey Kong or the Space Invaders like that. Those were the easiest ones to implement in the long run. So overall, I think that I managed to pay tribute to the aforementioned influences in both subtle and more obvious ways. I learned the importance of pre-production and planning for projects like this. I've also learned many post-production special effects techniques that I did not know at all prior to this module. I even learned to effectively use Adobe After Effects, which is something I was completely unfamiliar with beforehand. So yeah, right. So that about does it. Thanks for watching.